Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Road Ahead. My name is Mary Copeland. I am the owner and founder of Compass and Clock, this fabulous publication. Our three presenters today are members of Compass and Clock, and they are a wealth of information as it pertains to senior housing options. So without further ado, I am going to introduce our three presenters, and in the order that I say their names will be the order that they're presenting, but I would like them to say just take a moment to give you a little bit of information about themselves. Daphne Davis is the owner and founder of Pinnacle Senior Placements. Beth Pratt is the Community Relations Director at Parkview Villas in Port Angeles. And Denise O'Donnell is the Director of Nursing at Madrona House, which is one of the fabulous communities owned by Bainbridge Senior Living. So, Daphne.
Hello, everyone. I'm honored to be here, and I'm so happy to be a part of Compass and Clock, and I'm glad to have all of our participants here today. I have been in the senior industry helping elders find appropriate housing and care when they can no longer stay at their own home. And so I've been doing that for 21 years, and I've been doing it as my own company for the last 7 years. So welcome today to our seminar.
Thank you, Daphne. Beth?
Hi, I'm with Village Concepts of Port Angeles. We are a senior housing company that has 18 communities in Western Washington. Our furthest west is down in Hoquiam, and I'm up here in the northwest corner in Port Angeles. And here at Parkview Villas, we provide senior housing for independent retirement up through very heavily assisted living.
Denise?
Hello, I'm Denise O'Donnell, and I have been with Madrona House Assisted Living now for 2 years. And we are a network of 4 different buildings, 1 independent living, 2 others are assisted livings, and the building I work in is the only of the 4 that has memory care unit, 2 levels. And welcome, everyone.
Well, thank you for the introductions, ladies. I see Heidi just joined us. Welcome, Heidi. We are going to kick off the seminar. It is Senior Housing, Know Your Options of Support. Over the last several days, there have been folks on the seminars with me, and they've had some questions. So I have directed them to make sure that they get on the seminar with us today. So as usual, if everybody could please mute themselves. And if you have questions, just use the chat bar or unmute yourself and ask the question. We are here today to answer your questions, provide you with information, and make sure that you know where to turn. Daphne, I believe you are starting us off with the process.
Yes. So what I have to offer you today from my perspective as the owner and one of the advisors for Pinnacle Senior Placements is a broad overview of the kinds of things that you can think about, things to consider, and what are your options. So some communities, our speakers today are from, as you heard, communities. I am not from a community. I work more like a realtor that helps people find exactly the right type of community for them, not only from a healthcare perspective, but also from a financial perspective, from a perspective of what gives you joy. What kinds of things do you want to have upheld in your daily life? What kind of things would you rather avoid? And so I go through a process of finding out what your highest values are. And I walk alongside you with the process of discovering if the following would be helpful for you. One option is certainly to stay in your home with in-home care. So I can help you in doing that. Another option that you would have would be independent living or assisted living. You could also have the option of an adult family home, or you could have the option of a memory care, or the final option that I think we'll talk about today is probably nursing home. But most of them will be communities that provide some level of care for you or an independent living level, and you don't have to take care of your home or maybe make all of your meals, that kind of thing. A couple of things that I want to highlight for you, though, is that this is your journey. And you are the one who drives the bus, so to speak, in terms of discerning what is most important to you. And so as you embark on this mystery, I might say, or journey of finding housing and care, when you've made the decision for yourself that says, you know, I just can't maintain my home any longer, or it might be that I'm just feeling lonely and I'd like to be with other people. It could be that something is forcing the move. You may have had an accident or something, or maybe there's something going on with a progressive disease process. All of those things can be catalysts to why you're looking to move. But the most important thing is, how do you want this next chapter to look in your life? Is it important to you to have your own space, your own apartment? Is it important to you to have transportation available? Is it important to have meals all prepared, or do you want to cook some of your meals yourself? Do you have the desire to only move one time? Or are you in the frame of mind that says, you know what, I can move twice maybe. Right now, my disease process is such that I can be independent, but in the future, I might have something going on with me physically that I may need more care. But you get to make those decisions. Some people say, nope, I only want to move one time. And then we walk through the journey of how do we discern how to support you today in a quality life and tomorrow down the road. Another thing that sometimes is a big mystery that someone like myself, a placement agent, can help you with is figuring out, how do we pay for this thing called senior housing? How do I protect my estate? How do I come up with the funding at the very beginning? Are there services or funding available to me? I am a vet, let's say. Is there anything that the Veterans Association can help me with, administration can help me with? There are things like aid and attendance. That's one that veterans and their spouses can make use of. There are certainly qualifying points to that, but that's something that we could help you at least begin to explore. How does Medicaid fit into all of this? We talk about how you qualify for Medicaid. It's a process of sometimes having a period of time that you might have heard of as a spend down. That's a jargon that you might not know what that means. And I'm here, as well as the other ladies, are here to help you know exactly what that means and how does that affect your decision-making process. Another big thing is to consider location. You all know we're a very mobile society, usually we're a mobile society. Right now we're kind of pinned down a little bit. But is it better to stay in my own community, or would it be better to live closer to one of my children? Is it better for me to think about, I've always wanted to be a snowbird and I'm going to go to Arizona now? What does that mean in terms of your next chapter of life away from your home? These are things that you may not have thought about all the time. It may be something that you're thinking, oh, this can't be that hard. And then you get into conversations that say, oh, I never thought about that. And all three of us here today would be able to help you through those conversations and figure out once again what your highest values are. It's not what my highest values are. It's not what your sons or daughters are. It's what yours are. And so I'm guessing that you're all on this call today to learn a little bit about how does this process work. And I'd encourage each of you to be thinking about, bluntly stated, what are the things that give you joy? Each day, what things give you joy? What things could I not live without? What things do I really want to have every single day? Some people might tell me, I really want to have my dog or cat with me. Some people might say, I need to go outside no matter what. I want to be out in the fresh air. Even if it's raining, every single day I want to go outside. Some people might say to me, I want my own privacy. I don't want anybody knocking on a door. I just want to do my own thing and not have to walk outside in the rain to get my mail. There's lots of things that make people think about what their highest values are and what gives them joy. At the same time, I'd encourage you to start thinking about what things make me crabby. What things do I prefer to not deal with? And as an example for myself, I would be one that said, I don't want to watch out for cats and dogs in the hallway. I want to I'm a farm girl. Farm girl says animals have purpose and they belong outside. So that would be something for me, just my personality. So that would be something high on my list. The other thing that would be high on my list is I have a probability, only looking at my parents, that I could develop some dementia. And I would like, and of course I'm in this industry, but I would like to only move one time. And so in that, I want to make sure that I have the care that I need. And so that would be a really high thing. I wouldn't want to be in a situation that I had to wait a long time for someone to come and help me. And so I could communicate that to somebody and just say, this is a high value for me. You get to set the standards. If there's anything for you to walk away from in terms of what myself, Daphne, is communicating to you, is you set the pace of what's going to be happening. You set the standards of how and where you want to live. No one else does that for you. Now, along that line, I encourage you to include somebody in this journey with you that can help you make discerning decisions. I'm sure you all know this story. Sometimes we can be too close to the forest to see the trees. And sometimes having somebody that you trust along with you in that journey is really an important piece to have. So I'd include at least someone. Usually it's a son or daughter or a family member. Sometimes it's a good friend who knows you really well. And sometimes it's a person like me. The bottom line is, don't walk this journey by yourself. Reach out for someone to be helping you. Now, Mary, I don't really know your format today, but I want to be sure not to overstep my time. And if this is a time then for questions at this point, or if I would pass that on to someone else. And it looks like Mary might have left us.
Well, if you're entertaining questions.
I would definitely entertain questions, John.
Sorry, I was on mute and I, go ahead.
That's all right. John stepped in and he has a question for us.
Well, you listed a number of types of housing. Could you give us some sort of cost parameters on those?
Certainly. Generally, the most expensive form to care, if you were comparing apples to apples, would be in-home care. If you were doing 24-hour care, generally that's someplace between $9,000 to $12,000 a month. And that's where someone comes into your home, and it usually will be two people if you're doing 24-hour care. And generally, I'm giving you rough numbers, I'd say it's between probably a $28 to $40 an hour venture within home care. Then we can look at independent living and assisted living. And I'm going to put those together because usually there is some variance in independent and assisted living in terms of the rent of an apartment. But I think you can look at someplace between a low of $2,500 for an independent studio or one-bedroom apartment. And that could be as high as maybe even $4,800 for a one-bedroom apartment in assisted living. Obviously, there's different levels of services that are involved in that, but I think someplace in there is a rough estimate. And then when you're looking at assisted living, the cost of care is in addition to the basic rent. So the rent doesn't just include your four walls, it will include your meals, usually all of your utilities. It will include housekeeping, usually some laundry of flat linens, entertainment, transportation. It really is all encompassing when you are at assisted living. But if there's anything that you need help with, what we call activities of daily living, that would be in addition. And generally, this is a rough thing, if someone needed help with medication and maybe with showers, you would probably be looking at somewhere between $700 to $1,000 additional for care. If you're looking at adult family homes, they're structured in a pay scale that everything is inclusive in their rate of care. And in the counties of Kitsap, Clallam, and Jefferson, I would say there's a few that we could do at $3,500 a month, and it could go all the way up to about $8,000. And that's totally dependent upon the level of care, and that's determined as an assisted living by an assessment. So these are all things that we would help you with. Memory care is similar to assisted living in how it's structured. You pay for room and board and then care on top. And I would say memory care is generally someplace between $5,000 to $10,000 a month. I know I'm giving you really broad ranges, and certainly don't hold me to them because there's situations that are different for every building.
And what about nursing?
Nursing homes, for long-term care, you're going to be looking at anywhere from, I would say, maybe a low of $11,000 a month to about $14,000. And that's if it needs to be private pay. For short-term care, if someone is needing short-term care and they qualify as what we have skillable needs, then that's usually paid for by Medicare for a short term up to about 100 days. That would be an option also. Sometimes there's a copay to that. There's variables, but that would be in a short-term stay situation.
Per the conversation or the seminar that Mr. Tizano had on Monday, John, if somebody was ill and they were in the hospital and then they were there for 3 midnights and admitted as a patient, and they got moved to rehab, which would be skilled nursing, then Medicare pays 100% of the first 20 days. And then the next 80 days, they pay all but approximately $170. But that's when you're talking about, it's a health issue and it's temporary. If you're moving into skilled nursing home, as another word, that's different, and that's where you're looking to be living, and that wouldn't be short term.
I do want to add a caveat there. If someone qualifies for Medicaid, and I'm going to say like from day one, that's a whole different formula, and there is a copay along with that, which is generally limited to an income that is usually $2,200 or less, minus $68 right now. So Medicaid makes all of what I just said completely different.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? If not, I'm not sure who's next on our agenda, but I bet Mary knows.
Beth would be the next one because she's going to walk us through, okay, now somebody has had a conversation with possibly Daphne and her team, or if they were living elsewhere with another elder care placement agency. And now they're going to go on tours, and Beth would be somebody that you would speak with, and she'll tell you what that process is all about, and also about community life, especially socialization. That's a really big piece.
Thank you. And thank you, Daphne, for all of that. We are here when folks do need to move. And sometimes folks come to us through placement services. It's pretty rare out here. There's only 3 assisted living options in Port Angeles and 2 in Sequim, and we're the farthest west on the North Coast. So it's usually someone has seen us. This is our 13th year in a row as Best of Clallam County. So oftentimes people call me off the newspaper ads. So when we're showing someone around our community, we have options. And I would start with saying, know that those always available. There always are options to consider. Are you, as Daphne pointed out, are you an independent senior who just wants to get out from underneath maintaining a home? Do you want meals? Do you want housekeeping? Do you want it as an all-inclusive package? Here at Parkview Villas, I have cottages for independent seniors. It's just a tenant-landlord agreement. I can provide you with meals out of my dining room. I can provide you with a housekeeper. However, what I cannot do is send my caregivers to our cottages. They are not part of an assisted living community. They're a lesser rent because of it. However, in my apartments, folks come to us either as assisted residents or independent residents. I don't really like the nomenclature, but that's what we got to work with. That's the jargon. I think of our assisted services as providing an opportunity for additional independence from housekeeping, from maintenance, and from maintaining a staff. Oftentimes when people come to us specifically for assisted living, my thought is, we're here when you're done managing a staff in your house. Managing caregivers in and out is a lot. And even at $30 an hour, you're looking at $600 a day. That can be $18,000 a month. My most assisted residents here don't pay more than $9. So, and we're here 24 hours a day too. So there are cost conditions in addition to, as Daphne pointed out, we got to make decisions about money. We got to make decisions about place and service. In my community, we have a wide range of apartment options. I'm in the 1-bedroom apartment today. I'm in my little model room because it's quiet. There's no activity room next to my office as there is downstairs. But I have apartments from a studio. It's just one big room with a private bath, to a 2-bedroom with 2 bathrooms and its own washer and dryer. Costs are dependent upon size and occupancy. And folks, when they come to me, they come with a lot of questions. Can I get satellite TV? No, I'm sorry, you can't. If that's important to you, you're going to want to find a community that'll let you put a satellite receiver on the outside of the building. It's pretty rare. Usually we're on bulk accounts. So you're going to be dealing with whatever the local cable provider is. You're going to want to know, you're going to want to tell me, what do you really want? Do you want to be able to sit on the 3rd floor on the balcony and look out across the property? Or are you afraid of heights? I want to know, because I'm not putting you in an elevator to take you up to the 3rd floor if that's not what you want. And right now, under current precautions for COVID and the restrictions imposed by the state and the health department, and I'll gladly talk about that if you all have questions, ground floor apartments are a hot commodity because you can visit on the patio and you can get outside. And that's important right now to a lot of folks. And seeing how things have gone with these restrictions, a lot of folks are considering in the future, how long will these restrictions go on? Maybe a 1st floor apartment is always going to be best for me. You want to find out what kind of a menu, what kind of a culture, what kind of activities, what kind of transportation. Those words are thrown around, but they mean different things depending on the environment in which you're standing. Does activities mean that somebody plays bingo twice a week and a pianist comes on Sunday for a modified church service? Or does it mean an interactive activity calendar of events? I've been working in senior housing now for 13 years, and I spent almost 10 of those as an activity director. It's near and dear to my heart, and I think of it as the heartbeat of the building. I think it's the biggest factor in choosing culture. Meals are meals. I get tired of my own cooking. You're going to get tired of the cooking in the kitchen where you're moving to anyway. Be prepared for it. It's going to be similar in style because you have the same 2 or 3 cooks in the kitchen. So take advantage of the activity program. Go out to lunch for Chinese food. Do the takeout Mexican lunch. Participate in those special occasions to get yourself out of the common everyday. You know, ask to meet the activity director. They're going to be a part of your life. And they're usually available and glad to meet new residents. You want to meet the dietary director. You want to ask about, what kind of services can you provide me if I need a low sodium diet? What if I'm low sugar? What if I'm diabetic? What if I can't have gluten? Those questions are important, and each community is going to have a different set of answers depending on what their structure looks like. I'm a pretty big community here with 87 apartments and 20 cottage units. Does that sound overwhelming? Maybe a smaller community is for you. And I think Daphne touched on that. What's important to you? And the pet thing is a big question. My downstairs apartments go to dog owners faster than anything else. It makes it easier to take Fido out for a walk and to clean up off the patio. So I would say that as a professional inside the house, those are the things I would look for if I were searching. Those are the most important questions to ask, because an apartment is 4 walls. I have kitchens, that's unique. Most places have a kitchenette, maybe a microwave, maybe a hot plate and a small fridge. I actually have a full kitchen with an oven and a stovetop, because if you want to make your mom's fried chicken, you can do that here. It's not a common thing in assisted living. So those are questions to ask. And then the price issue. And Daphne really did a good job of laying out those different cost structures. And they can vary widely. My least expensive apartment starts at $3,000. My most expensive is $4,250. But that's before care. And that's before a second person moves in. Ask those questions. The deposit structures are usually not overly complicated, but if you see something that says fee, ask if it's monthly or annual or if it's one time only. That matters. I know some communities charge a monthly community fee. Some charge one annually. I have a one-time only community fee. So I make sure I mark that on my rate sheet when I hand those out. But everybody's different. And I think Daphne really did touch on the how many times do you want to move question, because that comes up frequently here with my cottages and apartments being separate systems. How does that look for you? If you're in a cottage and you have an event, we call it the event, that precludes you being able to come home independently and really do need assistance, are you going to want to move again? And how close to that event are you? Are you in a disease progression that looks like you're headed that way? I had a conversation this morning with a gentleman with a recent Parkinson's diagnosis. He's not interested in looking at the cottages, even though right now it would suit him fine. But really he needs to look to the future, and he doesn't want to move twice. I don't blame him. The move across the campus is a lot easier than the move across country, but it's still a move. So those are questions you got to ask. And I think that they're important questions to ask. And then once you arrive, my goodness, jump in. You are paying for all of these services. Get to the meals, come to the activities, listen to the live musicians, find the thing that gives you happiness. If you're a reader and you're very quiet and you're not very social, maybe you want to get plugged into that library system. Maybe you want to know who's managing those books and how you can get your requests in the list. Maybe you're a very gregarious person and you want to be on the bus every time it goes everywhere. Make sure you keep your eye on the calendar. If you're a music lover, make requests. As a former activity director, I can tell you it gets real hard to do it by yourself. The more requests an activity director has, the more options they have to share with your neighbors. And it's unlikely that you are the only person that wants country music on the calendar. So keep that in mind. If you like to go to the theater, maybe you want longer range outings. Maybe you want to go somewhere overnight. We as a community can't know that if our residents don't tell us what they want. Maybe you love meatloaf and we don't serve it often enough. Make sure the dietary managers know it. Get to know your maintenance guy. Find out what he can and can't do for you. I can assure you, we get some very unusual light bulb requests from some very old lamps. We can do that. So there's a lot of things we can do that are little things to take the pressure off. If you're in current cancer treatments, you're going to have days where you don't have a lot of oomph left in you at the end of those treatment days. We're here to take that pressure off. We're here to bring you your dinner, make sure you're all right, provide you with a pendant to push in case of emergency, and get out of your way so you can live your very best life as you age in place here. People ask me all the time, will you ever ask me to leave? Maybe. The answer is maybe. If we cannot provide you with a safe and healthy environment for your current need, we may have to hit that conversation. We are not nursing care here at my campus. There are campuses outside of this area. I'm in Clallam County. I know that they exist, continuing care communities where folks can move on the same campus for memory care or skilled nursing levels of care. Sometimes we just aren't the right fit anymore as someone's dementia disease progresses. It's happened recently. It's been a heartbreaker for all the staff to say goodbye to longtime residents, but if we cannot provide them with care that is the best option for them, we're not going to ask someone to stay here. We never send somebody out on their ear. We work with families to find solutions, and we never send someone out to be homeless. But sometimes that conversation does happen, and I'm not unique in that. If we cannot provide a safe and healthy environment, we will have the conversation that is the hardest conversation any of us ever have to have with a resident. Usually folks do age in place here. I have 2 residents currently on hospice care and they're bedbound. And while that's beyond our disclosure of service, when folks choose hospice, our rules change and we do everything we can to keep them here, safe, and well. That gets a little dark, but after this many years working with seniors, that's just a part of what we do. And making sure someone's end of life is as comfortable as their older years have been up till that point is just as important, if not more so. Mental health matters, physical health matters, comfort matters. And here we're very family oriented. And we're very excited to finally be hitting a level where we can let family caregivers back in our building this week. So if anybody has questions, I don't want to belabor the points. So let me know, how can I help you understand what we do as an assisted living community out here in Clallam County?
I think one thing, Beth, that you should talk about are the tours, how the different communities welcome tours so that people can walk in when it's not COVID, see the smiling faces of the residents and the caregivers, or that's what you would like to see. If you don't see that, maybe that's not the place for you. Come schedule a tour, taste our food, see if this is the right fit for you.
You're absolutely right, Mary. And the tour is the best way to get to know a community before you ever make a decision. And people say, I don't want to waste your time. I'm 2 years away from moving. You aren't wasting my time. You are not wasting my time. Come in, have a meal, sit in for an activity. Tell me what you like to do, and I'll schedule your tour on a day that I've got music or a game or something you can join in on. Because how else are you going to know? Get to see what's going on in the building. Meet the executive director. These all matter. And any tour can walk in any day of the week, and any one of us will stop what we're doing to show someone around as best we can. But if someone's got the time to schedule that visit, it's the best for everybody, because we can make sure we're tailoring that visit to you. Usually I have folks come on up here to the room I'm in right now. This is my model room. We can sit comfortably. I have refreshments in the fridge, and folks can stay for lunch, or they can have lunch first. I give them the option for whatever meal of the day that is important to them. They want breakfast, come for breakfast. I'll come in at 7, I don't mind. I will be here on a Saturday at 3 o'clock if that's the day your kids can come and take the drive with you. I'll be here on Sunday morning if that's the day, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that the senior who is doing the shopping can come in, see the inside of apartments, see the inside of one that's empty and one that's a furnished unit, to give you perspective. It gives you an opportunity to interact with the dining room staff. It gives you an opportunity to interact with the office staff. Watch maintenance at work. Watch how fast they run down those halls with those light bulbs in hand. I think the tour is the most important thing for folks. I can send you a tour packet. I can send you my virtual tour. Right now we're doing modified tours. So we kind of do them outside and come in and go in and out patio doors of locked units. But it's better than not. And it's a good way to get a feel for me, our community, what's going on as you come by the front door, which is a very busy place right now since no other doors are open to be for deliveries or people. So there is a number of reasons to take a tour. Thank you for that, Mary.
The other thing is the example that you used when you say somebody says, I'm 2 years away. Well, people need to know there's waiting lists. Denise, who will be speaking next, is part of Bainbridge Senior Living, and I know that Madison Avenue House has at least a 2-year waiting list on certain sizes of rooms, 2-bedroom, etc.
Yeah, I have a couple of units that are very much like that. My 2-bedroom, 2-bath, I've only had 2 of them vacate in 3.5 years. Same with my 1-bedroom cottage versus the 2. I almost always have a 1-bedroom. Almost all communities are going to have a 1-bedroom somewhere in the line. Like we've got one coming within 2 months. But beyond that, the specialty sizes and layouts, especially if you've got a place that's got great views, those units usually go fast, and they're often at a premium too. So be aware of that. My community is not set up that way where rents differ based on viewpoint or location in the building. It's just based on square footage and the layout of the apartment.
When I sent out the Zoom link also for everybody, I gave you 6 attachments. Technically, I gave you 12. And the first time I sent the email, there were the 6 tip sheets. And this is one of them. So look for the one that says Senior Community Notes. So when you go out on a tour, you could take this with you, and it tells you what to look for and what questions to ask. So just a little tip sheet to help you. The other set of 6 that I sent was the 3 presenters' contact info. And John has a question. He raised his hand. Go for it, John.
You basically said that you had 17 facilities. Where are they? Are there any in the Olympia range?
We have one in Gig Harbor. They're up and down the I-5 corridor, and being out here in the middle of nowhere and being from Oregon originally, please don't quiz me on exactly where. But we do have a facility in Auburn. We're in Burien. We're in Issaquah. We're in Everett. We're in Mill City. So Village Concepts has a footprint about 18 communities from Chehalis to Everett, from Hoquiam, and we have one over in Moses Lake, but that's a management contract. We do not own the building, and it's a senior rent controlled for low-income seniors.
Chehalis is close to Olympia because my son plays baseball, and it's close.
Yeah,
it's within.
I would be
20
interested.
minutes.
I would be interested in some literature that lays that out and addresses.
We'll get
Well,
that.
I would be glad to send you some email. I can send you an email, John, if you want to drop your email address in the comments. I can certainly take that with me so that I've got an email link to send you. Our website has all of our communities listed at villageconcepts.com.
Villageconcepts.com.
You can go to the select your, if you go to Village, and actually I'll just type that in here into the chat. So you can just click on this link and it will take you to our website where you can find the community closest to you. And Village Concepts, we do everything from rent-controlled senior housing to, and don't mind my wrist brace, it's making me type very slowly. We do rent-controlled independent senior housing up to memory care. We do have communities that have memory care on campus with assisted living. Our community out here in Port Angeles is just independent and assisted. So each community has a different paradigm of care, of what we can do. Daphne probably knows my buildings over there better than I do.
That's a perfect segue, Beth. That's a perfect segue into Denise. Because when you talk about different levels of care, Denise is the director of nursing with Bainbridge Senior Living. She's in the Madrona House. And not every senior housing community has full-time nursing. So why don't you take it away, Denise? And again, still ask questions though, folks. You're on mute, Denise, so everything you just said was not heard. You're still on mute.
Now that works. Okay, I thought I was like, thank you. So we don't do sign language here, but thank you for inviting me to this intimate setting. Those of you that are on this call, obviously you're either part of the profession or you are really considering it's time to get a little peace of mind on what you're doing, or just it's time to get some help. And it could be for yourself, it could be for your spouse, it could be for your loved one. These ladies, Daphne and Beth, thank you so much for your wealth of knowledge. You've touched base on a few things that I was going to tap into. However, I think maybe the clarifications here. So I'm a nurse. I came from a background of skilled nursing facilities, 24-hour nursing care. There's no doubt about it. We nurses are there. If you need an assessment or observation from the expertise of a nurse, then skilled facilities are in your future. If you, though, are on that cusp, and again, they touch base, what do you need now versus what is your projection for the future? So you talk to the administrator, you talk to the admissions team, and they say, you know, it looks like you don't need much help right now. We provide room and board, as all assisted livings do, but then there goes the increase of fees. The cost is definitely something that is a consideration. As anything, it's kind of like a receipt. You'll get a receipt for what we agree is the receipt of what services are we going to provide. So your base room and board is there. There aren't many assisted livings that have 24-hour nursing services. Your nurses may be invisible in the whole spectrum of things. My role as a nurse is to be the concierge of your healthcare, for better, no other way to put it, but the concierge of the healthcare. You coordinate it, you put together a health profile. Before you even set foot in the building, we'll determine what can we do for you? What is it that you need? You may need absolutely nothing. Maybe the laundry is something that's been getting on your nerves, so you'll use the community laundry room. Those are the basics. But here I come. I walk in and you say, I don't need anything, but here I'm moving in as a couple, but my wife needs this. And it's okay to have two people living in the same apartment with different levels of care needs. They're individuals. In our building, we have the uniqueness. We have first and second floor in the building I'm in is assisted living. And then we have the third and fourth floor is memory care. We also have a unit that we have isolated, which we call the transitional. We have one spouse that's independent with a few care needs, and then we have another spouse with a higher level care needs, and even individuals with memory needs. They're not flight risk, they're not elopement risk, but they could stay with their spouse so that they can grow together until that expanded need may be that the one with the memory care has to go into a safer unit. It's a variety. It's like moving into a home. You choose your homes, your environments, what's available in your neighborhood. So as a new neighbor or a contemplative customer, you would talk to the nurse or someone who has been in the healthcare industry for a while, and we'll do what we call an assessment. That assessment, while it may seem a little too invasive, we're going to want to know your healthcare background. We're going to want to know what your diseases are. Do you have healthcare issues that may come back to surface while you may look holistic now? What about, do you have Parkinson's? You may not need the physical help now, but you might need that a year from now. Do you have multiple sclerosis? Well, that's a disease that maybe is a skilled level need. Maybe not right now. Maybe it's very much under control. I love the transitional unit because we have a couple couples right now, and one is that. One is memory care, a high level care needs, and then the other one is like basically just help me with my medications. The good thing about a skilled assisted, or not a skilled living, but an assisted living, we have vendor contracts. If going to Walgreens or Rite Aid or CVS to get your medications is a hardship, and through a snowstorm, you cannot get those meds. And we have contracts with vendors who deliver the meds to our facility. So you could take that off your plate. Knowing what you need is, so you'll have your folks set up the admissions team, and then they'll send me to either your house or an agreed upon facility, or as Beth said, maybe you come into our building and we meet you there. You'll give us a list of that. We'll ask your likes and dislikes. Well, assisted livings in the state of Washington have a basic service agreement that is under what they call disclosure of services. That's the baseline fee. But then the healthcare fee comes in separately, and we call that the NSA, Negotiated Service Agreement. So those are two different costs. The one will be an inclusive, and then the other one would be what I have to offer you. And we go through that assessment prior to admission, ideally. There have been times where people move in emergency purposes, power outages, and now all of a sudden the kids realize, oh my gosh, mom and dad haven't had power for 2 days. Can we move them into your building? Then in good faith, we agreed upon a set fee, and then in 14 days we reevaluate. Well, we were charging you for helping you walk to the bathroom. You now know where the bathroom is, so you could take that fee off. And the agreement is good for a calendar year by the state of Washington, or unless there's a condition change. What assisted livings cannot offer nor promise you, as Beth said, is once it's a daily need of a nurse to assess the situation, we'll give it 14 days. We'll give it an opportunity to see, is this a short-lived health condition, or is this going to be permanent? And then that's what we will be very frank with you and have to go through that difficult decision. If you're lucky enough to be on one of those campuses that go from independent living, assisted living to skilled, then that's the decision you make kind of in advance. In our building too, because we have the luxury of having the memory care in independent living or assisted living, we have some folks that they don't live on the same floor, and that's okay. Sometimes the health of an individual has to be taking the burden. And I know as a loved one, it's not a burden. It's a gift that you're willing to give this energy to take care of your loved one. But it might be time for you to take care of yourself. And then you become the companion. You become the visitor. You're no longer the caregiver. We are. And that's what they're there for. There's no guilt. There's no decision of guilt here. This is just like, what can we do for you? So we have memory care folks. The COVID's a little difficult right now because we don't like to integrate our units so that we don't spread the germs. At the same time, there are community events, the live music, the car shows, the outdoor picnics. Those we integrate all of our care staff with. So one thing's in the state of Washington, facilities do get to decide. While one facility may do insulin, another facility may not. That is just their decisions. One facility may be able to do a pureed diet and another facility may not. And that's based upon whether they have a registered dietitian on board. So these are things to consider. And Daphne touched base that she knows kind of like the nuances and the flavor of the household. We like to consider it a move-in, not an admission. In our particular case, before move-ins, we also ask for a bio. This way, holistically, when the housekeeper goes into your room, they have a conversation to strike up. When the maintenance guy goes in, he makes sure your channels are just right. And maybe if you have problems programming your TV, it can program your favorite channels. We do have conferences. The conferences, in an ideal world without the COVID, we host together all our department heads, and you get to meet them and you get to tell them what's important to you. We may not be able to meet everything you want, and your families are not pushed away from it. They are still part of you. If you move a loved one in, it's not we do it all for you, we do it all with you. Doctor's appointments, if you have memory care issues, somebody's going to have to be there with you. Now, it may be a fee from the facility of an attendee, but we certainly will invite the family members to go there and be part of that partnership. As a nurse, we can be very invisible or we can be very involved, but you're not going to get a high involvement of a nurse in assisted living because then you're asking for a skilled facility. In assisted livings, we're not allowed to take a verbal doctor's order, whereas a skilled facility can. So it's not like we have the strings to call a doctor and say, I think they need an antibiotic. I, as a nurse, will delegate what we call our med techs, or they're skilled in the capacity that they have taken classes, they're CNAs, and they have the right and the certificate to be able to give medications to your loved one. They're watching for side effects, but it's on a different level than a nurse, so the expectation is not there. So we can do vital signs, but in assisted living, this is a home environment. Would you be taking your blood pressure and your pulse every single day? You probably won't. We might do it monthly. We might do it when the doctors visit quarterly or twice a year. So the expectations can be talked about in advance. Don't want any surprises, but again, we know our limitations. As a skilled facility, we can do it all. And even then, sometimes they have to send them off to the hospital for safekeeping. The whole point is let us assist you, and that's the term you have to go by. It is an assistance. It is not all-inclusive. We don't do money management. That is something that you have to, in advance, will know who's helping you with medical and financial decisions. So I'm probably over time, right, Mary?
You're doing just great.
Thank you.
I was thinking on something that you said, and that was somebody could be living in an assisted living community, and like right now during COVID, it's very evident that when you have family and friends and loved ones nearby, a lot of them participate in your ADLs, helping while you're living at these places. And with COVID shutting down the senior housing communities, all of those tasks that your loved ones were taking on now fell on the shoulders of the caregivers at the community that they weren't doing for you already. So that is allowed at the communities when it's a normal world, that your husband or daughter or son or niece or granddaughter can come in and help with some things, which will possibly keep the cost lower initially when you're staying there, because it's something that the staff at the community is not doing. At the same time, though, when you're in a community, you can have in-home care coming in also, right, Denise? You can have
Can.
like, a home instead senior care come in with nurse delegation, because they just love living in your environment. But if it doesn't have the skilled nursing piece, somebody can come in. The other day, Dr. Garrett Soames with House Call MD was one of our presenters. He can come to the community for house calls for your residents, because it's your house is your home. So wherever that may be, that's where House Call MD goes. So you can get some of that higher nursing brought in, but the communities are not the ones delegated for that.
Thanks for that, Mary. And that is so true, because let's say hypothetically somebody has bad vascularization and you have wounds that open up every now and then on your legs. If we have a nurse in the building, and our building happens to have 2 part-time and myself, we might be able to do the wound care once a week. But basic first aid is all as an assisted nursing assistant could provide. That's all they can do, basic first aid. So you may have wound care, and home health nursing agencies could come in and do wound care, typically no more than 3 times a week, but ideally some insurances will max out at twice a week. And again, till we have that conversation to go to skilled, it would be if it's an everyday event that has to take place. We've had in assisted livings where someone's had bad wounds where they would go to skilled till the wounds are healed and then they come back. And that's okay, because we can hold your place for you. It's not always permanent, and it's really, but after 2 weeks, if we know we can no longer handle the situation, we do have to have that frank discussion. And quite honestly, I've been there 2 years, it's only happened twice in my building. We do hospice and that's another supplement that comes in. So we have those adjunct services. Some families feel memory care is so special because it's so different. It's a different world. We have shoppers in memory care. Families may have a hard time with that, but someone in memory care, the environment is structured so that it is a safe environment, a lot of repetition, because that's what that individual will thrive on. Low stimulus, but at the same time, activities to fit that level of mentation. It can be from a stroke, it could be from Alzheimer's, it can be from any number of dementias, but cognitive impairment, a traumatic brain injury. Those folks need specialty care, and any building that has anyone with that level and say that they advertise as memory or dementia care, the staff members have to go through a special training that is sanctioned by the state, so that we have that little layer of those extra tools. And then annually, we build on the knowledge and the tools and the latest and the greatest.
There's a couple of other things I'm not sure if we touched on or not, because this has been such an enormous wealth of information, ladies. Thank you so much. Let's take COVID out of the equation. So COVID's not here, right? And there is something called respite care. So respite care could mean that something as simple as, I am my father's caregiver, he lives with me, and I'm going on a 2-week vacation. So my dad is going to go into respite care with Denise, let's say, and he will be a resident there for 2 weeks and he'll pay for it. So you want to ask those questions. Do you offer respite care? Another reason for respite care could be that maybe, well, I don't know if you do it backwards this way, but I'm the caregiver and I'm overwhelmed and I need to go stay with you.
Never had that one.
Yeah. Another thing is, especially in memory care, some communities offer daycare services, so that your loved one who has memory care issues can come to the community and they could be there all day, let's say from 8 a.m. to 4 a.m. And that's therefore respite care for you as the caregiver, who's a little overwhelmed and you're not getting things done. So you set up a regular schedule to bring your loved one there. And to me, I see two bonuses in that. Number one, the caregiver needs to take care of themselves and they need to get some of these other things done. And number two, unfortunately, when somebody does have Alzheimer's, it does progress. And at some point, you might not be able to take care of them yourself anymore, even though you want to with all your heart. So you've been able to introduce them to this community, and now they have familiarity with it there. So should you have to make the move, the transition would be a lot easier. Daphne, Beth, Denise, if you have anything to add to that, please jump in.
I'd like to add just a couple of things. One, and every community makes up their own mind about this. Sometimes respite care can be used as kind of a stepping stone. I've just recently had a woman who is very young. She's in her early 70s and has Parkinson's. It's progressing, and she's quite certain she wants to stay in her home, but her family's very worried about her. And so she agreed to do a 30-day stay at a particular community that we thought would meet her needs long term. And she now has decided to stay long term. And sometimes it's just the mystery of, what is this going to feel like? I've lived in my home for 50 years and somebody's asking me to change and leave. And I know how many steps it is to the bathroom. And I know where every light switch is. It's very difficult to make those changes. So sometimes respite can be used just as a let me put my finger or my toes in the water. Let me just try it out. The other thing that I wanted to just kind of, and for me to kind of close with, is that if you got nothing else from this today, I hope that you heard that you can ask questions. I hope that you heard that from at least the 3 examples of companies that you have here today, that we want to ask your questions. There's never a time that is too early. Never. Sometimes we can wait too long to ask questions or to make a change, and then some decisions are made for us. And so the earlier that you ask questions, the earlier you explore, the more proactive you can be, the more in charge you are of your own decisions and having your highest values come to fruition. There's something magical that happens when you can use your energy that you have for each day to living and not surviving. And when you get to live, you have this stress factor that just lowers and lowers, and your health usually goes up. Ladies, would you say that that is something that you've witnessed in people that come to your communities?
Absolutely. And I want to dovetail into something else Mary said, and about respite and kind of what you were saying, Daphne, is the other thing is up here, and I think this is pretty common industry wide, we're month-to-month rentals.
Yes.
So even if you don't want to, you don't want the big dip, well, we charge a last month's rent as part of the deposit. I always tell people, stay for a month. If you don't like it, give me notice. Tell me to apply the last month's rent. You were here for 60 days. Give it a try. In the 13 years I've worked in senior care, 3 times someone has moved back out. Once she went out and bought a house when her daughter was out of town. That's a whole nother story. She also crashed her car into the front of Safeway, but she wasn't hurt. So I think that that's an important piece, is that we are a month-to-month rental. The other side of respite that we haven't touched on yet is, what if you're the well spouse and your wife or husband has had a massive stroke, they're in recovery and therapies, your house has stairs, and they can no longer walk on stairs. Twice now I have had a spouse move in to a smaller apartment where the well spouse stayed in their home, but would visit daily. We had a meal plan for one of the husbands, where he was here every day for dinner. We just put him on the meal plan. And the spouse who had had a stroke in both instances continued to improve while we provided the day-to-day care without stairs, in a safe environment with 24-hour access to caregiving. And both of them have moved back home after their therapies had completed. Again, the only really out money is whatever that non-refundable community fee was in the beginning, and what cost peace of mind, what cost wellness. So in those instances, it wasn't exactly respite, but it acted like respite for 6 or 7 months. So there are a lot of ways to utilize the tool of senior housing, skilled nursing, assisted living, all of those different pieces, memory care from daycare services, short-term respite, long-term respite. And again, we're month-to-month rentals. No one is selling their soul here. This doesn't have to be a final decision. This can be a decision, one step. And I think it's important that folks understand that there are a lot, not just ask a question, but ask for your options.
Mhm.
And I do want to say one more thing really quick, Daphne. If somebody doesn't want to answer your question, ask why. That's important.
She's exactly right. There should be total transparency. I'd like to open this up just in the last few minutes that we have to any general questions that someone may have, or even a specific question is fine too. Go ahead, John.
I'm always a student, I guess. So what is the community fee covered? I know almost all facilities have it, but what is it? What are you getting for your money?
So our community fee, the way I describe it is a non-refundable damage deposit, cleaning fee, and repainting and carpeting and all of those things that happen when people move out. And it's the cost of assessment. And Denise talked about how that assessment works from a nursing perspective, but it takes me a week of work to get a hold of all the medical records for a new resident to have that assessment. It takes my nurse a couple of days to review. So it is those pieces that are the cost of moving someone into the building that are covered by our community fee. Some places have a much higher community fee than I do. Mine's $1,000. It's $1,000. It's non-refundable once a person has gone through the assessment and moved in. But it pays for all those pieces. There is no additional security deposit. We do collect a last month's rent. That's a different question. The community fee is specific to sort of damage, cleaning, and assessment.
Denise, can you speak to that at all? If not, I certainly can.
Would you please? I
Sure.
do the clinical role very well, but not financial.
I thought so. You know, John, a good question, because it does vary from anywhere. The lowest I have still seen is about a $500 community fee. The highest I have seen is $35,000.
Yeah.
So it does vary a great deal. I think most often, as Beth has stated, that is what it's used for. There are some communities that are set up, though, that it's also used for upkeep and development of common areas. That might be a use of that community fee. Another area that it's used for in some communities is for ongoing education for the staff, and some I would say ages is one of them that's very open about that they use the community fee for education of their staff. So good question to ask each one of the communities of what they use that for.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Panorama in Olympia,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of interesting. Their fee goes up sort of in relationship to the size of the unit. And it's kind of, I haven't asked them that question, and I should, and I will, but.
Yeah, please go ahead and ask them. And also, if you haven't talked to them recently, ask them if they've got any specials going on right now, because I know they did recently concerning their community fees. So,
good point, Daphne. Everybody should ask that question, because
yeah.
there's always a special in our hip pocket, even if it's not advertised.
Yeah. Yeah, ask about that. And particularly during this COVID time, just from a consumer point of view, it is hard to make this decision to move into any kind of community, because there is something that you weigh. You know, it's not as straightforward as it used to be. It's getting very much easier. And we as communities who have been providing care, we're getting better at having socialization. We weren't so good at it in March and April, but we're getting much better at, and hopefully, prayerfully, this is going to be done soon. But ask any question. And I agree with Beth. If someone doesn't answer your question, or they dance around it, or you feel like they're dancing around it, say that. Say, I'm not sure I got the straight answer here. Do I need to give you some time to research it? Is there something going on? I mean, this is your life. Yeah. This is a big decision.
Thank you.
Mary, I'll turn it back to you if there's no other questions. Sorry,
I had to step away for a moment. I have a son at home that is doing social distance learning and he needed something real quick. So if anybody doesn't have any other questions, I will do the drawing for the door prize for today. And Beth had already put in the chat bar the website for her company, and I just put in the ones for Daphne's and for Denise's. But again, all that information is on the Compass and Clock website. If you go back there in about an hour, this recording will be posted there for you. And I sent it on the other information. So let's see who it is today. I think based on where you live, it's going to determine your prize today. Heidi Grossman. Heidi, you're the winner. So based on where you live, I think you're in Seattle. So yeah. I don't think 4 box lunches from Parkview Villa's Amazing Chef will work. So we're going to send you a $20 Starbucks card.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Or you can donate that to someone else if you want to do a drawing again. That's okay with me.
You're so sweet. I have your contact information, so we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Call.
Okay.
So.
Thanks, Mary.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions of these wonderful experts that we have here with us today? We're so fortunate that they were able to give us some of their generous time. Well, then I'm going to let you ladies go. I'm going to sign everybody off and I'll get this video uploaded.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.